Oh yes, my original Legend of Zelda video, the first scripted video I ever did, back when I still wrote out the first drafts of my scripts in a notebook. Of course, my integrated headset mic hasn't exactly aged well. If you listen closely, you can hear me struggling to talk around my braces, and I keep chuckling for some reason, even though I don't think I told a single joke across the entire video. But despite all of that, I was surprised that most of the points I made regarding the actual gameplay hold up pretty well in my opinion. I played on an emulator for that video. Of course now I have much higher standards like the Nintendo Switch Online service. Hey, there are shockingly few competent official ways to play NES games for the average person, and this isn't a platformer, so the weird A-B button remapping didn't bother me too much. Of course, the borders still look terrible. I have to deal with them, but luckily for you, through the magic of Streamlabs OBS, I can just chop those right off for the video much better. So I bet everyone here is at least moderately familiar with Zelda. You play as Link, a silent protagonist who usually has to rescue a princess, in this game in particular traveling through 9 different dungeons to do so. You start out with 3 hearts and a wooden sword, and are given precisely no instructions. Let's get this straight right off the bat. I used a guide for this game, and you should too. I'm not talking about I occasionally Googled the answer to a tough puzzle. No, I straight up pulled up a walkthrough on my second screen and followed it step by step until I beat the game, and I don't feel bad about it. If you want to enjoy this game, you need a guide. You see, this game was meant to keep a kid back in 1986 occupied through the summer. You know, draw your own paper map, swap secret locations on the playground, that kind of thing. Well, nobody has time for that now, and these secrets are ridiculous. I guess I was just meant to intuit that I could walk straight through this solid wall. Okay. Oh, you know what? I bet to get through this infinitely repeating maze, I'm supposed to go up, left, down, and then left again, obviously. If you use a guide, you can waltz your way into the first dungeon with the first sword upgrade, the first armor upgrade, and 3 extra hearts. And you'll need them because this game is hard. Link controls rather stiffly. You can only move in 4 directions, and unlike in later games, you just kind of stab the tile in front of you instead of actually swinging your sword like a normal person. I complained about the controls briefly in my original video, but I don't remember them being this bad. Probably because I played on an Xbox One controller and not the lacking D-pad of the Nintendo Switch Pro controller, so your mileage may vary depending on whether you're playing on the NES, GameCube, Game Boy Advance, Wii, Wii U, 3DS, Nintendo Switch, or emulators. These rather stiff controls will give you problems with the enemies, like Darknuts, who can't be hit from the front, only the sides. This doesn't seem so bad until you realize that they never stop moving and they have a billion health and they hit you for an entire heart. You also have the Wizrobes, who teleport around the room and shoot ranged magic attacks at you and also have a ton of health. They really call to attention the problem with the range of your attack. You have to be practically on top of an enemy to deal damage to it, and most of them either have ranged attacks or move so fast that you're bound to take damage in the process. Of course, you do have your own ranged attacks, the most viable being the sword beam, which does just as much damage as a regular stab of your sword. The problem is, you can only use it when you're at full health, which you never are. It mostly just seems to exist to frustrate you when you lose it more than actually help you. You have the special dungeon items. You find a secret item in every dungeon, which seems optional, but usually isn't. You have the boomerang, which can stun most enemies and kill extremely weak enemies. The magic wand, which can damage pretty much every enemy except the ones you want to use it on, and the bow and arrow, which is actually pretty good but requires a rupee, which is this game's currency, every time you take a shot, and everything in this game is outrageously expensive, so you can never afford to use it. The actual design of the dungeons are pretty good, so is the progression of your character. I will say, upgrading your arsenal and being able to more easily take on enemies that gave you trouble earlier on is rewarding. One thing that drove me nuts is how this game handles health. When you die, you respawn with only 3 hearts. Not much of a problem if you're near the start of the game and only have, 3, 4, 5 hearts, but when you get up to 16, this is no longer acceptable. So every single time you die, you have to either use one of your expensive health potions, or, more likely, trek all the way back to a fairy fountain to refill your health, which usually takes a little longer than forever. When you finish the main campaign, you're presented with a second quest. This is basically an official ROM hack of the original game, featuring an all-new set of dungeons, and now all of the items are in a different place in the overworld, just in case you aren't already confused enough. I found navigating to be a bit more frustrating, mostly because online resources for the second quest aren't quite as plentiful. The dungeons, however, are significantly more annoying because of one little change. These stupid bubble enemies! So, the way they work is if you get hit by one of the red ones, you don't take any damage, you completely lose the use of your sword. The only way to get your sword back is to get hit by one of the blue bubbles, which sometimes are in a completely different room, or sometimes there's only one blue one in a room with 4 or 5 red ones, a room which might also be filled with dark nuts, or whiz robes, or both. And this loss of your sword carries over no matter if you leave the room or the dungeon. It doesn't matter. And they can't be hurt. They're invincible to any attack. These ridiculous bubble enemies almost single-handedly drag down the entire second quest. Of course, that isn't my only complaint. Enemy placement in general is more unforgiving. Grinding rupees is a lot more annoying. Honestly, I would struggle to recommend the second quest to anyone other than Zelda enthusiasts and completionists. And even then, once you beat it, you just get sent back to the beginning with not so much as a mark on your save profile to indicate that you finished it. As for the main story, well, if you have a Switch and a subscription to Switch Online, you already own this game, and for $5 on various virtual consoles, it's a fun little romp. Give it a try if you think you'll enjoy it, but use a guide. Well, now that I've covered The Legend of Zelda, Banjo-Kazooie, Banjo-Tooie, and Plants vs. Zombies, I guess I can finally put those original scripted videos behind me. This was a very interesting game to revisit, so hopefully you enjoyed it. I'm really looking forward to covering more Zelda games in the future. If you did enjoy it, remember to drop a like, and as always, subscribe, ring the bell, upload every Saturday, that kind of deal. Follow me on social media, Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, join my Discord server, and I guess that's about it. As always, thanks for watching.